Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, April 27, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any other related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that the entire Atlantic is still being dominated by those ridges of high pressure that are responsible for sending all of those easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. You can also see that we still have that L that represents that airflow pressure situated across the northern portion of the main development region. You can see that we still have the Atlantic, the northern Caribbean actually, being plagued by numerous troughs, and to the north of those troughs we see the tail end of two cold fronts right there. If we actually take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see what we just mentioned, the clouds associated with the tail end of the cold front, not to mention the clouds associated with the numerous troughs plaguing the northern Caribbean. And we can also see that flow of clouds pushing from east to west across the Caribbean, not to mention the swirl associated with the remnant of that airflow pressure. We can see that is very much void of any convection at this time. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean's weather with the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. So it was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica on Saturday morning, also affecting sections of some southern parishes in Jamaica on Saturday afternoon. And just for your information, we know northern parishes we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, while southern parishes, we're talking about Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. And what ended up happening? A post was made on our Twitter page at Weather Jamaica, on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876 at around 6:05 a.m. Keep in mind that these posts are only made throughout the day on these platforms and not our YouTube page. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as well. So we can see that as early as 6:05 a.m. we had some amount of clouds coming into sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica. We even had some amount of isolated thundershower activity across sections of Portland, the Blue Mountain region right there. And if we even take a look at later on throughout the day, we still had those clouds coming in from the northeast with that moist northeasterly flow, all of those northeast trade winds coming into sections of northern Jamaica. And we know the drill, we usually have that relief rainfall that brings clouds and some isolated showers, especially to sections of Portland and St. Mary, and that was still going on by midday on Saturday. During the afternoon hour, however, in mid-afternoon, that's around 2:26 p.m., we saw that some of these clouds were starting to build across sections of some southern parishes, a section of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, and we still had that cloud cover and rainfall still affecting sections of the northern portion of the island, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, still getting in on the activity, and even sections of Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine got in on some of the action as well. The final images were posted at 4:15 p.m. highlighting the sparkling yellow dots. We saw that we had some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, across sections of the southwest as well, while we still had that cloud cover and rainfall activity across the north. So sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, sections of St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, sections of St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland definitely got on that isolated shower, more so that thunderstorm activity across sections of St. Elizabeth right there. And we even have some of our commenters confirming the rainfall in their area. Shawnee Reynolds, St. Andrew getting a little. Even on our Instagram page, we had lovely Macy 876 stating rain on and off in Ochi. Slim _ Queen _ 1 stating raining in Sainty. So that indeed confirms the rainfall that we saw across the island for today. And we saw it even better right here on the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can still see that we had that buildup of thunderstorm activity across sections of the southwest. But as usual, by the end of the run, by the time the sun is about to go down, majority of it is clearing out. But we still saw we had some amount of clouds still pushing into section of the northeast even as we speak. And we saw those high cold cloud tops that indicate those cumulonimbus clouds across the island today, most of which were pushing off towards the east southeast right there. Definitely had some thunderstorm activity today. That build-up of convection definitely well needed across the island. And if we take a look at the Cuban Doppler radar images, we can actually see that we have some amount of leftover showers right there after the southwest of the island, represented by those greens and yellows that we know by the key on the right represents light to moderate, even some slightly heavy rainfall right there. If we take a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology's accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours, this map does indeed paint a picture of where we had the rainfall for today. It doesn't actually, it's not 100% accurate, but it does paint a picture of where we got that rainfall. So definitely sections of some southern parishes during the afternoon and northern Jamaica during the morning hours. And we know that it is not 100% to scale in terms of the rainfall totals. All of this right here on the key on the bottom is all in millimeters of rainfall. Some areas getting more rain than others, especially across Portland, and there's definitely a lot more rainfall to come. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, and we have 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Sunday, temperatures should dip down to about or close to 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Sunday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Sunday, and we see Jamaica for the most part embedded in some grays, not to mention some slight yellows that represent the zeros that are indicative of average temperatures, the yellows that represent at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. So we're indeed grateful that we're actually getting a break from those oranges and reds that way above normal temperatures. You can also see some way below normal temperatures right there across the northern portion of the basin, the east coast of the US, Florida, the Bahamas, even those greens right there, definitely getting in on some way below normal temperatures, and I'm sure they're all grateful for that. Either way, Jamaica is going to be receiving average to slightly above average temperatures, at least 1 degree Celsius above average. We know the average temperatures for the month of April across Jamaica 88 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer, 88 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 31 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Sunday. As it relates to the dry air map, we can see that the dry air is represented by what we see on the key on the bottom, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see right here Jamaica is embedded in some amount of yellows that represent the low end of the scale in terms of a dry air, and we're indeed grateful for that. We can also see a lot of blues across majority of the Caribbean that indicate moist air, all courtesy of the numerous troughs that are plaguing the basin, and we're indeed grateful for that. That spells more rainfall in the forecast. Hopefully we get it all very soon to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are experiencing. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, for the past week we've been experiencing those lighter shades of blues, especially after the southern and southwestern portion of the island. Those light blues represent the 0.5 of a meter wave height, as we can see by the key right here on the bottom right, while those darker shades of blues represent anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. And this is the forecast for tomorrow. We're definitely going to be seeing those darker shades of blues on the northern and eastern portions of the island, and we know all of that is due to the fact that the winds are going to be strongest on the north and eastern side of the island right there. So we see those bluish greenish colors represent the least amount of winds that we can see by the key on the bottom right. That represents anywhere from 5 to 10 knot winds, while we're gonna be having those brighter greens and even those yellows, especially on the north coast, very windy, that represent those 20 to 25 knot winds. And not to mention the fact that we can see most of the blues that represent the least in terms of the wind for a section of southern Jamaica. And we also see that on both maps, both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus with this. And we know what usually happens. We have all of that air piling up, coming in from the east, northeast, or wherever. Then we have all of those cumulus clouds becoming maybe some rain clouds in the mid levels of the atmosphere, maybe even making up to cumulonimbus status, with some amount of thunderstorm clouds up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And the upper level winds are to be coming in from the west for tomorrow, as we can see by this map from the GFS, which shows 18 on Sunday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Sunday. We see the flow generally from the west, as we can see by those arrows. And just like what we saw today, when we took a look at the infrared satellite images, we saw the high cold cloud tops, which indicate those cumulonimbus clouds being blown off towards the east or the southeast right there when they became cumulonimbus clouds. But tomorrow the forecast is actually for the upper level winds to be coming in from the west. Either way, rainfall is definitely going to be in the forecast, and with the low level flow also coming in from the east northeast, we're definitely going to be getting on that rainfall continuing across section of the northeast, that relief rainfall, those clouds building especially across Portland, the most mountainous parish in Jamaica. So they're definitely going to be getting some rainfall, maybe even triggering some isolated flash flooding, if not some land slippages in some areas. And the forecast maps confirm this. Look at this map from the Euro and the GFS. So Euro right here, GFS right here, and this is valid for 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we can see by the key right here. And look at all those blues that represent rainfall, definitely across sections of the northeastern portions of the island, so sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, sections of St. Thomas getting in on the action as well. And even when we take a look at the GFS map, we still see much of the same across the very same spots. Sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, spilling into sections of St. Thomas, even spilling into sections of Trelawney right here as well. Skipping ahead to about, let's say, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 8 a.m. Jamaica time, we still see much of the same across the very same spots. Blues that represent rainfall across northeastern Jamaica. But by afternoon now, we start to see a change. Look at what we're seeing right here on the Euro model. Blues that represent rainfall basically across most areas. I'm more inclined to believe the rainfall is going to be affecting sections of northeastern Jamaica still, then spilling into sections of some southern parishes again during the afternoon. But look at what the Euro is showing. We see some greens and yellows and even reds in there across sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. And the thing is, the GFS doesn't show that, but it does show that we're going to be getting those blues that represent rainfall across sections of some southern parishes too. And that's what we look for. We look for consensus, and we see the consensus. Keep in mind that this is valid for 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And there's definitely some amount of rainfall in the forecast. So if you haven't gotten that laundry done as yet, try to get it done as soon as possible before Sunday afternoon, because there's definitely some rainfall coming, especially to northeastern and southern parishes in Jamaica. And the accumulated precipitation forecast maps confirm this. We can see the most in the way of rainfall totals for northeastern Jamaica. The Euro a bit more robust, showing those darker reds and even some purples that represent anywhere from 2 to even up to 3 inches of rainfall. GFS not so robust, only up to at least 2 to 2.5 inches of rainfall, especially across the northeast Portland. Maybe sections of St. Mary, section of eastern St. Thomas in there as well. And we can see the rainfall that's expected across the rest of the island as well, even although there are some differences. Either way, we're indeed grateful We are in the month of April. We usually receive up to 140 millimeters of rainfall during this month according to this bar graph. That's almost 5 inches of rainfall. And if this rainfall continues before we wrap up the month, we might just make it to that point just as the average for the past couple of years has shown. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have that easterly flow across portions of the Caribbean, bringing some amount of rainfall across the basin, the numerous troughs, the high cold cloud toss being blown off aloft in the upper levels of the atmosphere from southwest to northeast, especially across the Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic areas. If there was supposed to be any form of system forming from this swirly across the main development region, it definitely would have had a hard time with the very strong upper level winds, just like what the US National Hurricane Center had predicted, affecting portions of the area. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean to confirm what we just saw on the satellite images, so we're going to be looking from about, let's see, that's about 1 p.m. today, and we saw that we definitely had some amount of rainfall across sections of southern and western Puerto Rico, sections of the Dominican Republic right here. We can also see some rainfall across sections of the British Virgin Islands, and some isolated pockets of rainfall pushing into sections of the Leeward Islands right there, maybe sections of Anguilla and Barbuda, or Antigua and Barbuda, sorry. If we even take a look at the Barbados radar, we don't see much happening across Barbados right now, but we can see some amount of rainfall right there to the south of the island of Barbados, to the north of Tobago, some rainfall right there to the west of St. Lucia, some rainfall to the north of Barbados, pushing from east to west, maybe to affect sections of Martinique and St. Lucia later on tonight. If we take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, you can see that rainfall that we just mentioned across the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and we can also see that rainfall across sections of the northern portion of South America, so section of French Guyana, section of Venezuela right here, definitely getting in on some amount of rainfall as we speak. And if we also take a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, it does make sense that we're getting in on those average temperatures, because we're getting more in the way of those grays that we see by the key on the right represents those zeros. We don't see much in the way of those yellows or those oranges like what we see across Central America or across sections of Northern and South America, and we're indeed grateful for that. Hopefully it stays the same. We see the below average temperatures though in the forecast for a section of the east coast of the United States, Florida, the Bahamas, section of northern Cuba, northern Hispaniola and Puerto Rico right there. And we see that this is all valid for 18th on Sunday. That's actually 1 p.m. on Sunday. So we're indeed grateful that for the most part we're going to be receiving average to slightly below average temperatures across the region. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS maps are showing that majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on those lighter shades of blues to darker shades of blues that we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave heights to 1.5 meter wave heights. And that is due to the fact that we're going to be experiencing the winds. We see the winds actually with these colors, bluish to greenish right here across majority of the Caribbean. Even some yellows in there, especially across portions of the Greater Antilles right here, that we know represent anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knots, maybe gusting to 20 to 25 knots, especially across the Greater Antilles. And we see that the general direction is from the east for the most part, curving towards the north across the Gulf of Mexico into the southern United States right there. And we also see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. But what about the rainfall forecast now? Keep in mind that both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Sunday. Not saying this is going to be raining all the way up until then, but these are the spots that are going to be picking up the most in the way of rainfall. And where do we see the rainfall forecast having agreement on both maps? Definitely across sections of the Greater Antilles, a section of Eastern Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Definitely going to be getting on that rainfall. We also see some amount of rainfall in the forecast for sections of the southern portion of the basin. So sections of Costa Rica right here, Panama. Let me change this color so that you all can see even better. So Costa Rica, Panama right here, definitely going to be getting on some rainfall. Section of El Salvador, Guatemala, section of southern Belize right here, the coastal areas of Nicaragua, and even sections of Venezuela, the western portions and the southern portions of Venezuela, that is. Sections of Suriname, French Guyana as usual. And we can also see some amount of rainfall in the forecast for sections of the northeastern Caribbean. So section of Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, and even sections of St. Kitts and Nevis, maybe even sections of St. Martin as well. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chance of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.